This is Kai Cutter TV with another presentation. We gotta talk about this. Is there a crisis at the border? Joe Biden. This is what everybody wants to know. Everybody's talking about it. You're denying it, yet still you're sending Border Patrol from the north down to the south border. That must be for a reason. This next story we got 100,000 migrants apprehended at the U.S. Mexico border in February alone. Now, I'm no mathematician, but if you add up these numbers, if this rate stayed the same for a year, you would have 1.2 million illegal immigrants caught at the border in 1 year. And that is just the people that are caught. That's not saying everybody that's coming through. So this 11 million undocumented immigrant number that keeps floating out there by the left is obviously false. Let's get into it. Border Patrol agents apprehended nearly 100,000 migrants along the U.S. Mexico border in February, according to information leaked to Reuters by federal officials. This represents the largest number of migrant apprehensions in February since 2006, and the largest number of migrants apprehended in 1 month since 2019, when we had that migrant caravan crisis. Reuters published previously unreported numbers showing that Border Patrol agents apprehended nearly 100,000 migrants in February. If the numbers are accurate, they represent an increase of nearly 33% from January. So from 1 month to the next, you got a 33% increase. And this is when Joe Biden just came into office. So if this man keeps his rhetoric up, the number of illegal immigrants or migrants seeking asylum will increase exponentially. The rapidly increasing number of apprehensions follows the abandonment of Trump-era border security and immigration control policies by President Joe Biden during his first days in office. This man hasn't even been in office 100 days, a couple months yet, and look what's happening. USA is going down. I hate to say it, but as long as we have these lefties in control, America's going down. We got that and a lot more illegal immigration news to get into. Check this out.
U.S. officials detained nearly 100,000 migrants at the border with Mexico in February, according to two people familiar with preliminary figures, the highest monthly total since mid-2019. The previously unreported figures show the scope of a migrant influx, which has only grown since U.S. President Joe Biden took office and sought to roll back some of predecessor Donald Trump's restrictive policies. The nearly 100,000 migrants detained appears to be the highest monthly number since June 2019, during a large border surge which Trump cited as justification for a broad immigration crackdown. And an increasing number of children arriving at the border without a parent or legal guardian has forced U.S. officials to scramble for housing options in recent weeks and try speeding up their release to U.S. sponsors. Republicans have criticized Biden for rolling back Trump's hardline immigration policies, claiming that will lead to more illegal immigration. One of those Trump-era measures is Title 42, which was issued during the global health crisis, allowing U.S. authorities to rapidly expel migrants caught crossing the border illegally. Under that policy, the number of migrants attempting to illegally cross the border again has actually increased over the past year, with some making another attempt after being caught.
Border officials are warning of the impending crisis at the southern border as tens of thousands of migrants continue to arrive each week. According to a press release by Congressman Henry Cuellar, about 10,000 illegal migrants have been apprehended in the last week in the Rio Grande Valley sector alone. 2,500 of those migrants were apprehended in the last 2 days. In his statement, the Democrat out of Texas gave a stark warning, saying, "We are weeks, maybe even days away from a crisis on the southern border. Inaction is simply not an option," Cuellar wrote. "Our country is currently unprepared to handle a surge in migrants in the middle of the pandemic." Cuellar said the migrants are exposing border communities to the coronavirus and putting everyone at risk. He continued on to urge the Biden administration to listen and work with the communities on the southern border who are dealing with that surge of migrants. According to CBP, nearly 80,000 illegal migrants arrived at the southern border in January, which is more than twice the number from January of last year. In addition, the Department of Health and Human Services said that the number of unaccompanied minors who are slated to be released into the country has risen by nearly 600%. As of today, about 321 minors a day are being referred for release, as compared to a daily average of 47 a day while Trump immigration policies were still in effect.
From the scene with more tonight, Crystal.
Brennan, several neighbors pointed out this house to be where those illegal immigrants were found earlier this week, first by Yuma County Sheriff's Office, who then called in CBP after realizing what they were dealing with. Just off of County 13th and 3/4 Street, a dirt road leading to a dead end. A quiet neighborhood, according to a few homeowners we spoke to. But still, one woman says that didn't stop her from constantly seeing a high number of vehicles turn onto her street. The other day, a car passed by going more than 20 miles per hour. I pursued him with my car and he stopped. It was a person with a lot of tattoos on the face. I told him he couldn't pass that fast and he said he wasn't going to do it again. But it was a person I never seen in my life. So it was weird. A lot of cars that were different. The house she says the man stopped at is the same house neighbors say they saw law enforcement activity earlier this week. U.S. Customs and Border Protection confirming the home was harboring 18 illegal immigrants.
Everyone pretty much just kind of keeps to themselves, just high and by. So this kind of activity was a little bit of out of the normal, I guess.
One neighbor is saying every morning as he went to work at 6:30, he would see cars coming and going. Even saying sometimes he would see the homeowner working on one car and never seeing it again.
Every day they'll be working on different cars, and I thought they were actually involved in something else.
CBP says the Yuma County Sheriff's Office had reported to a possible burglary in progress around 2:30 a.m. Tuesday, when CBP was called for backup on a possible stash house. YCSO says it couldn't comment on the incident because it was now a CBP case, but CBP is saying they arrested everyone at the home, including 29-year-old Rodolfo Rodriguez, a U.S. citizen who was at the scene. It's undetermined if he was the homeowner. CBP says that illegal immigrants are undergoing processing. Meanwhile, an investigation is still underway. Neighbors tell me there was a family living in this house who only lived here for about less than a year. It's undetermined if there was anyone else at the home during the arrest.
We want to get more insight on this escalating crisis with former ICE acting director and Fox News contributor Tom Homan. Tom, thank you for taking time. I was just sort of showing our viewers just a little piece of the problems, obviously ending the construction of the wall, but it is Biden administration's rollback of most of the Trump policies that's led us to where we are. How do we solve it?
Well, we solved the same. We've done it 2 other times, but I sit here shocked that we have a president that is facilitating illegal entry. We had the most secure border in my lifetime under President Trump, and they tore it all down. And not only are they trying not to secure the border, they're actually facilitating illegal entry by moving detention centers into welcoming centers. How quick can we release them? They're not detaining them, they're releasing them with no COVID test. So how do we fix it? We fix it the same way we did in FY15 and we did in FY19, by enforcement, by consequence to deterrence. When the current secretary was the deputy secretary and Joe Biden was the vice president, FY15, we solved the border crisis by building detention facilities and detaining people until they saw a judge. We did it by having ICE remove people. 90% of Central Americans don't get relief. They get order removed, and ICE removed them. And guess what happened? A miracle. The border numbers went down because we showed we're going to enforce the laws. What are they doing now? The complete opposite. They're not detaining. They're releasing as soon as possible. They already gutted 90% of ICE authorities, so ICE can't arrest and remove people. And they're just offering more and more enticements. The Congress is now talking about passing more amnesty legislation, which is only going to bring more people to the country, Griff. The lessons learned and what they know, they're ignoring and doing quite the opposite, because this is about an open borders agenda, and they're not hiding it.
Tom, a very senior source at Customs and Border Protection tells me that since January, they have released more than 11,000 legal undocumented immigrants, and compared to fiscal year 20, that number was approximately 1,000. We also now learned that they're setting up these reception centers right along the border. How does that change this game?
It's just more enticements. Look, the Biden administration is, and the secretary himself during a press conference, we're just telling you don't come now, but you can come later. Look, you have told the world you can enter this country legally. We're not going to detain you. we're going to release you, and they're NTAing was notice to appear in front of the court. Most of them won't show up. But when you get NTA and OR, you qualify for work authorization. So they send a message. Enter the United States illegally, you won't be detained, ICE won't be able to remove you because we gutted them. You can get work authorization, and you can claim, for those that escape apprehension, you can claim you've been here 2 years and claim asylum. For those families come across now, they realize that families are hardly ever removed. You look at the DHS life cycle report, less than 3% of the hundreds of thousands of families that enter this country illegally were ordered removed, never left. They hid out, became a fugitive. And what's the result? What's the consequence of that? They're going to get amnesty. Even though they ignored the judge's order, even though they entered the country legally, these families from the last decade are going to get amnesty. So people see this across the world. They're not going to stop coming. We're going to see a surge at the border we've never seen before, Griff.
And Tom, just in a few seconds we have left, the unaccompanied minors is really becoming a serious problem. Obviously, we've all seen the numbers, some 7,700 unaccompanied minors in custody with HHS. Quickly, what is the solution for that problem?
Congress needs to fix the loophole in the trafficking law. Let me tell you what the Biden administration is doing. He just gave a green light to child traffickers and sex offenders. A lot of these children are going to come across the border in a so-called family group. They stopped the DNA testing. A lot of these children are being trafficked. And they have opened the door to that. The criminal cartels in Mexico, the sex traffickers in Mexico, they're celebrating. They're making $1 million a day because of Biden's administration's ignorance of this issue.
Former ICE Acting Director Thomas Homan, thank you, Tom.